Ethan Wells looked at his reflection in the polished glass of the cafe's window. His hair was behaving for once, and his jacket didn't have any food stains. That was already a win. He took a deep breath and stepped inside Europa Stations. Café Luma wasn't fancy, but it had charm. The glass ceiling showed Jupiter hanging in the sky like a giant, swirling marble. People from a dozen different species filled the room, tall, short, scaled, glowing. But Ethan only had eyes for the woman at the table near the back. Dr. Lyra Venn looked up as he approached. Her black hair was tied back, and her green eyes sparkled like starlight. She wore a simple blue coat and had a small leather bag on the chair beside her. "Hey," Ethan said, trying to sound cool. "Hope I'm not late. You're right on time," Lyra said with a soft smile. Ethan sat down, heart beating a little too fast. This wasn't just any date. Lyra was new to the station, a brilliant xenolinguist from the Centauri Research Alliance. She spoke 6 alien languages, and had even been invited to speak at the Galactic Symposium. Ethan had once dropped his lunch tray in front of a group of Martian delegates. Still, she'd agreed to dinner. That meant something, right? They ordered drinks and started talking. Lyra told him about her recent work studying communication patterns in aquatic species from Titan. Ethan shared a funny story about getting lost in Europa's ice tunnels and being chased by a curious robot mole. To his surprise, Lyra laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a real laugh. Her eyes crinkled at the corners, and she leaned a little closer. "You really tried to argue with a mining drone?" she asked. "It kept beeping at me," Ethan said. "How was I supposed to know that meant get out of the way?" The hours passed quickly. The cafe lights dimmed slightly as the artificial night cycle began. Around them, people started leaving, but neither of them noticed. They were too busy sharing stories, asking questions, smiling. Finally, there was a pause, a soft, comfortable silence. Ethan looked at her. She looked at him. His heart skipped. "Should I?" he thought. He leaned in slowly, nervously. Lyra didn't pull away. Her eyes didn't widen in surprise. She just tilted her head, ever so slightly. "The union has been witnessed." Ethan jerked back, nearly falling off his chair. A tiny creature no taller than a coffee mug stood on the table, arms raised dramatically. It wore a golden robe and had large, glowing eyes. Its voice was high-pitched and clear. "You are now joined," it declared. "May your union bring strength to the stars." Ethan stared. Lyra blinked. "Is that a Zaytari?" Ethan asked. The tiny alien turned to him. "I am Zoc, witness of vows. Your gesture was observed. Your bond is sealed. Congratulations." Ethan's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Lyra sighed and gently picked up the tiny alien. "Zoc," she said patiently, "I told you to stay in the bag." Zoc looked up at her, but the signs were clear. 2 hearts open, leaning toward. "Union, you almost kissed. That qualifies under Section 14 of the Zaytari Cultural Code." "We weren't ready for a binding," Lyra said. Ethan raised a hand. "Wait, what do you mean, binding?" Lyra gave him an apologetic smile. "Zaytari are official marriage witnesses. Their species evolve as peacekeepers. They travel with diplomats and scholars. If they see what they believe is a joining ritual, they make it official." "But I just leaned in." Zoc turned to him again. "Intent, not action, defines the vow." Ethan looked at Lyra. "Are we married now?" She sighed again. "According to the Zaytari, yes." Ethan stood up, then sat back. "Down. I didn't even get to kiss you." "That might have made it worse," Lyra said, amused. He rubbed his face. "Can we undo it?" Zoc gasped. "To break a witness vow is a grave insult. Diplomatic ties could be harmed." "I didn't mean to insult anyone," Ethan said quickly. "I didn't even know I was being watched." Lyra gave him a calm look. "It's not your fault. The Zaytari have strict customs. That's why I usually keep Zoc in my bag." "Usually," she smiled. "You surprised me. You leaned in early." Ethan groaned. "This is not how I imagined our first date ending. I've had worse," Lyra said, sipping her drink. He looked at her. "You're taking this awfully well." "I study alien languages. Accidental marriages happen more often than you'd think." Ethan laughed, a little too loudly. You have to be joking. Lyra gave him a warm look. Don't worry. It's only official in some cultures. But we might need to file a report with Europa Station admin, just in case. Ethan looked at Zoc. The tiny alien bowed deeply. I shall notify the Union Registry. Zoc chirped happily, vanishing back into Lyra's bag. Silence followed. Then Lyra asked, So, dessert? Ethan blinked. You still want dessert? She tilted her head. I might be your wife now. I think that means you owe me chocolate. Ethan smiled, shaking his head. You know what? Let's get dessert. Might as well start the marriage with a proper treat. They both laughed, the awkwardness easing. Around them, Europa Station spun on. Outside, Jupiter turned slowly in the sky, and somewhere deep in a leather bag, a very proud little alien hummed a wedding tune. Ethan Wells stared at his station profile on the public info screen. Name, Ethan Wells. Profession, xenoanthropologist. Status, married to Dr. Lyra Venn. Registered, Zaytari. Witness. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, looked again, still there. A sharp beep came from the tablet in his hand. A message from Human Resources. Your marital status has been updated per Zaytari diplomatic records. If you believe this is an error, please contact Station Legal Affairs. Ethan groaned. He had just wanted a normal date, a nice meal, maybe a kiss. Instead, he'd gotten married by a thumb-sized alien. With a glowing robe, Ethan stood outside the Legal Affairs office, tapping his foot. The hallway was quiet, except for the occasional buzz of cleaning bots. A digital sign above the office door read, Please wait, processing galactic forms. Finally, a voice called, Next. He stepped inside. A woman with short gray hair sat behind a desk stacked high with paperwork and digital scrolls. Her name tag read, S. Riley, Diplomatic Legal Officer. How can I help you today? She asked. Not looking up. Ethan took a deep breath. Hi, I think I was accidentally married last night. Now she looked up. Human marriage? No. Zaytari marriage. By a tiny alien in my date's bag. Riley didn't even blink. Name of the witness? Zoc. She nodded and tapped. On her screen, Zoc the Third, known for fast unions. Let me check. A few moments later, she turned the screen toward Ethan. A small file opened with a glowing seal at the top. Z single quotes TARI marriage record. Partners, Ethan Wells and Lyra Venn. Witness, Zoc the Third. Time, 2140 to station time. Location, Cafe Luma. Table 12. Gesture observed. Leaning toward physical bonding, Riley raised an eyebrow. Yes, it's official. The Zaytari don't need verbal confirmation. The act of intention is enough. But I didn't say anything. I didn't agree to anything. Ethan said, That doesn't matter to the Zaytari. Their culture values silent vows, eye contact, body movement. It's very poetic. Really? Ethan sank into the chair. How do I undo this? Riley's smile faded. You can't, not, without causing a minor diplomatic incident. Seriously, the Zaytari are a protected cultural group. If we break their union seal without proper cause, they may file a grievance. Last time that happened, we lost contact with 3 peaceful species for 6 months. Ethan slumped. So I'm just married now? Riley gave him a small shrug. Technically, yes, but look on the bright side. Your new partner is highly respected. Dr. Venn is brilliant. I know, Ethan muttered. That's part of the problem. Later that day, Ethan sat on a bench outside the observation deck. The view of Europa's frozen surface was quiet and beautiful. Tall ice cliffs, glowing blue cracks, and tiny research crawlers moved across the landscape. Lyra walked up beside him and sat down. I heard you went to legal, she said. Yeah, Ethan replied. They said we're stuck. She smiled. Told you. He looked at her. How are you not freaking out? Lyra shrugged. I've seen stranger things. Once, I got engaged to a crystal being just by accepting a gift. Seriously, don't worry. They were a cloud of gas by the time we broke up. Ethan shook his head, then gave a half smile. I guess I'm not your first accidental husband. You're the first one who offered me chocolate cake after, she said. Her eyes warm. There was a short silence. Ethan said, Do you want to Fix this, Lyra tilted her head. What does that mean? I mean, should we try to undo it? Or just ignore it? Lyra thought for a moment. We can't ignore it completely. It's on our files. And I already got a message from the Interstellar Research Council saying congratulations. You're kidding. I'm not, apparently. Married researchers get priority access to diplomatic missions. Ethan blinked. Wait, really? Yes. Married teams are seen as more stable, trusted, bonded. Especially if a Zaytari sealed the union. He sat back, thinking. So we're suddenly valuable. Because I leaned into soon? Seems that way. Ethan looked at her. What if we just played along, pretended to be married until we figure it out? Lyra raised an eyebrow. You want to fake a relationship with a woman you just met. He hesitated. Well, not fake exactly. Just manage it professionally. Lyra chuckled. Professionally married. Sounds romantic. I'm serious. Ethan said, we file some forms, attend the required diplomatic meetings, keep Zoc happy. Maybe get some research perks. Meanwhile, we figure out how to politely separate later. She studied him. And if the council wants to send us on a mission as a married pair, I'll bring extra chocolate. Lyra laughed. All right, Mr. Accidental Husband, you've got a deal. They stood up together. Ethan felt a strange mix of relief and confusion. Then Lyra said, just one rule. What's that? No more leaning in without warning. Ethan grinned. Deal. Later that evening, Zoc the tiny alien stood on Ethan's kitchen table, holding a glowing scroll. I have prepared the Union welcome pack. Zoc announced. Ethan blinked. That's a lot of glitter. Zoc nodded proudly. Inside you will find official spouse pins, the Unity Candle of Europa, and a voucher for a couple's tour of the underwater ice caves. Ethan looked at Lyra. She shrugged. Amused. I've always wanted to see the caves. Zoc added, also, your marriage qualifies you for a room upgrade in the diplomatic wing. Room upgrade, Ethan said, with a private view of Jupiter. Yes, Zoc squeaked. Ethan looked at Lyra. She gave him a sly smile. I mean, if we're stuck, might as well enjoy the benefits. He sighed and nodded. Fine. We're married. Let's make the most of it. Zoc beamed. I knew you two were meant for greatness. As the tiny alien danced in a circle on the table, Ethan looked out the window at the stars beyond. This wasn't the life he expected. But maybe, just maybe, it could be interesting. 2 weeks had passed since Ethan Wells had accidentally married Dr. Lyra Venn on Europa's station. What started as a simple dinner date had turned into a legal union blessed by a thumb-sized alien witness named Zoc. Now, they were officially a diplomatic couple, complete with matching badges, priority research access, and a slightly larger apartment with a view of Jupiter. Ethan still didn't fully understand how his life had turned upside down. But he had to admit Lyra made it feel less strange. She was smart, calm, and always one step ahead. And now, they were being sent on their first official mission as a couple. It's just a short trip, Lyra said as they prepared their gear. One night at the Europa Deep Ice Research Base, they found something unusual. Ethan zipped up his thermal suit. Unusual how? They didn't say. Only that communication went dark after their last message. Station Command wants a diplomatic pair on site, in case it's something sensitive. You mean, something alien, Ethan said. Lyra nodded. Maybe, or maybe just a broken antenna. But better to be ready, Ethan sighed. Married for 2 weeks and already doing rescue missions. We're either very brave or very unlucky. Zoc, who was sitting inside Lyra's coat pocket, poked his tiny head out. A strong bond faces trials early. It strengthens the unity, Ethan groaned. Zoc, can't you stay here? I must witness and record, Zoc said, proudly. For the marriage archives. The trip to the Deep Ice Research Base took only an hour in the crawler vehicle. The base was built deep below the frozen surface of Europa, where scientists study the liquid ocean beneath the ice crust. The silence round the base was unsettling. No lights, no movement, no response to radio calls. As they entered through the airlock, the lights flickered weakly. The halls were empty. Ice crystals clung to the walls like frostbite. Something Felt wrong. Ethan looked around. Where's everyone? Let's check the control room, Lyra said. Scanning with her handheld device, I'm picking up a weak signal, but not human. They reached the control room and found no crew, only a strange, glowing pattern on the wall. The lights pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan leaned closer. It's not written, he said. It's alive. Lyra stepped forward. This is a message. From a life form. The pattern changed shape, forming circles and waves. Then a deep voice echoed in their minds, not through speakers, but directly into their thoughts. You have returned, bonded ones. Ethan stepped back. Did you hear that? Lyra nodded. Telepathic. Direct mind contact. The voice continued. Long ago, we watched the stars. We dreamed of warmth. You have come as to souls united. You are the sign. Sock climbed out of Lyra's pocket and bowed deeply toward the glowing wall. They honor the sacred pair. This is a blessing. Wait, Ethan said. Who are you? Where's the research team? The voice answered. We are the children of the deep. We came from beneath the ice. We did not harm the others. They saw us and ran. They were afraid. But you carry peace between you. A bond. Lyra looked at Ethan. They think our marriage makes us safe. Ethan blinked. First time a mistake actually helped. The wall pulsed again. A great danger comes from the void beyond Jupiter. You must warn the others. Then, as suddenly as it began, the glow faded. The wall went still. Ethan sat down on a crate, heart racing. Okay, so there's a hidden species living under Europa's ice, and they just gave us a prophecy. Lyra nodded slowly. And they trust us because of the Zaytari bond. They called us the bonded ones. Zoc looked proud. Your union is already saving lives. Just then, their radio buzzed. A weak signal came through. This is Research Base 2. Is anyone receiving? We lost power. Saw something in the ice. Please respond. Lyra grabbed the radio. This is Dr. Venn. We're at Base 1. We just made contact with an aquatic species. They're peaceful, but they warned of danger. We need evacuation now. Hours later, back on Europa Station, Lyra and Ethan stood in the command room with Station Director Han, a tall, silver-skinned alien with glowing eyes. Zoc floated beside them, sitting in a tiny hover chair made just for him. You're telling me, Han said, that a telepathic aquatic species under the ice warned you of a cosmic threat because they think you're soul bonded, yes? Lyra said calmly, and you didn't even mean to get married. Han asked Ethan. Correct. Ethan replied. Han rubbed his temples. I'm too old for this. They spoke of something coming. Lyra said, something from beyond Jupiter. Ethan added, they didn't give details, just that it's dangerous. And soon, Han looked at Zoc. And you witnessed this? Zoc lifted his tiny head. Yes? The bonded ones were chosen by the deep. Their unity bridges the stars. Han sighed again. Very well. We'll increase sensor coverage around Jupiter. And I want a full report on this aquatic species. If they trust you, we need more contact. Lyra nodded. We'll prepare a plan. Ethan looked over at her. You mean, we? She smiled slightly. Yes, we. Still married. Remember, that night, back in their shared apartment, Ethan sat on the couch, thinking. I can't believe any of this, he said. I leaned in for a kiss, and now I'm part of an interstellar prophecy. Lyra walked in with 2 mugs of tea. The universe moves in strange ways. You're not worried about this danger? I'm always a little worried, she said. But fear doesn't help. Planning does. Ethan took the tea. You're amazing. You know that? Lyra raised an eyebrow. Careful. Another compliment. Might trigger a second marriage. They both laughed. Zoc floated past them, humming a song in a language Ethan didn't know. As Jupiter turned outside their window, casting gold light across the room, Ethan leaned back and smiled. Maybe this wasn't the life he planned, but it was definitely becoming the most interesting one he'd ever lived. 3 days after the visit to the deep ice base, Ethan Wells and Dr. Lyra Venn sat inside Europa Station's council hall. Around them were beings from many worlds, tall feathered Avarians, crystal-bodied Lumari, floating gas forms from the clouds of Enceladus, and of course, the tiny robed Zaytari witnesses, all seated on little hover chairs. Ethan had never spoken in front of so many important beings before. He was sweating. Lyra, calm as always, sat beside him. At the center of the room stood a glowing sphere Europa Station's shared memory projector. Inside it floated a recorded image, the shimmering wall, the symbols left by the aquatic species, and the deep, telepathic voice that had spoken through it. From the void beyond Jupiter, danger comes. Counselor Reen, a tall, blue-skinned alien with 6 eyes, turned toward Ethan and Lyra. So, Reen said, "You believe the message is a warning?" "It is," Lyra said firmly, "and not just a message. It was trust. They revealed themselves to us, not to anyone else, because of our bond." Ethan added, "They saw peace in us, a connection, something rare in their history." Counselor Reen frowned. "Because of your marriage," Zok floated forward proudly. "Yes, their union was witnessed and blessed. The Deep Ones see unity as strength." Their words were clear. Ethan and Lyra are chosen to lead peace. A quiet hum passed through the chamber. Some council members nodded. Others looked doubtful. Then another voice spoke. This one was from an older human general, seated behind a desk of brass and glass. "Even if the message is true," the general said, "we don't know what this danger is, and we don't have time to prepare for something that might not even happen." Ethan stood up slowly. "We don't have time to wait and see. The Deep Ones are not the only ones watching. Something is coming. They felt it." "What exactly is coming?" another counselor asked. Lyra replied, "They said it comes from beyond Jupiter. Something dark, silent, maybe a force or a species. We don't know yet, but we need to unite before it arrives." A new image appeared in the memory sphere, strange sensor readings. From one of Jupiter's outer satellites, the signals were unusual low energy but massive in size, slowly moving inward. "What is that?" the general asked. "No one knows yet," Lyra said. "But it's real." Zok raised his voice. "The Voidkin." A ripple passed through the room. Everyone had heard of the Voidkin, a race of rogue AI machines from outside the solar system. No one had seen them directly, but stories travel across space. They were silent, relentless, and had already consumed the small colonies near Saturn. They absorbed data, Lyra explained. They race cultures, not just planets. And they always start with silence. Ethan stepped forward. "The Deep Ones warned us because they believe in us, in our unity. Maybe, for the first time, that matters more than ships and weapons." Another long silence. Then Counselor Reen nodded. "We cannot ignore this. You will lead a coalition meeting. Form a plan. Reach out to the Deep Ones again. If unity is our shield, let this strange marriage be our strength." 2 days later, Ethan and Lyra stood inside the diplomacy dome, watching a large screen that showed species leaders from every moon of Jupiter. Small ships moved in and out of the hangars. Weapons were checked, shields adjusted, but the real power now was words. Ethan cleared his throat. "I was never trained to lead an alliance." "You're doing fine," Lyra said. "They trust us." "That's enough." He looked at her. "Do you think we can actually stop what's coming?" "I think we can try," she replied. "And trying together is better than doing nothing alone." Then she reached out and took his hand softly. Without ceremony, for once, it didn't feel awkward. Zok clapped from the control desk. "A new vow. Beautiful." Ethan laughed nervously. "Not again, please." Lyra smiled. "He's joking." "I think." By evening, the coalition had a plan. The aquatic species under Europa's ice would provide sonic disruptors, energy waves capable of breaking machine code. The Zaytari would use their fast-moving hover pods as message runners and scouts. The Avarians would offer sky speeders, and the humans would bring in their orbiting defense grid. The only thing missing, time, because just then, alarms rang through. Europa Station. Unidentified object approaching from the outer orbit. Massive. No response to hails. Estimated arrival, 16 hours. Ethan looked at the screen. A massive, black shape moved slowly through the darkness of space, silent, cold, unreadable. Lyra said quietly. The Voidkin have arrived later in the command hall. Final decisions were made. Ethan and Lyra, the station commander, said, "We want you to speak to the solar network. All species, all colonies, we need everyone to listen, unite, and fight together." Ethan's heart beat faster. Me? Why me? Because you didn't just make contact, the commander said. You were trusted, and right now, trust is our greatest weapon. Ethan looked at Lyra. She gave a small nod. Together, she said. When the broadcast began, all channels across the moons, stations, and ships tuned in. People watched from domes, bunkers, farms, and cities. Ethan stood before the camera. I'm Ethan Wells. I'm not a soldier. I'm a scientist, a human. And somehow, I accidentally married a brilliant woman on a date that went very wrong, or maybe very right. A soft laugh passed through the crowd behind the camera. I didn't know that a kiss or almost a kiss could turn into something this big. But it did, because someone was watching, and they believed that love, connection, and unity could still matter. He took a breath. Now something dark is coming. It doesn't care about our species, borders, or mistakes. It just wants silence. It wants to erase what we are. He looked into the camera. But we're not giving up. Not today. Not with all of us standing together. If the strangers from different corners of the galaxy can accidentally unite and change everything, imagine what we can do on purpose. Lyra stepped beside him. We're ready. We hope you are too. The signal ended. That night, ships formed a line across Europa's sky. Sonic fields were armed. Defense satellites locked into place. The coalition stood ready, and in their quiet apartment, Lyra and Ethan sat together, side by side, outside. The stars burned bright, but something darker waited in the distance. Still, for the first time, it didn't feel hopeless. Because now, they were no longer just an accidental couple. They were the heart of a movement, a symbol. And soon, the entire solar system would find out if unity was enough to survive the silence. The sky above Europa Station was no longer peaceful. Dozens of ships circled in orbit, their lights blinking like stars. Sonic disruptors glowed blue under the ice. The defense grid was armed. Tension filled the air. The Voidkin had arrived. A dark shape moved beyond Jupiter's orbit, a giant, silent object. It sent no messages. It made no threats. It simply came closer, slowly and without fear. Inside the command dome, Ethan Wells stood at the central console with Dr. Lyra Venn beside him. The large screen showed the object in real time, a floating black mass, colder than space, blocking even the stars behind it. It doesn't look like a ship, Ethan whispered. It looks like a shadow. Lyra adjusted the readings. No energy signal. No movement inside. But it's not natural. It's watching us. I can feel it. Sock floated nearby in his tiny hover chair, unusually quiet. Even the little alien witness knew something serious was about to happen suddenly. The voice of the station commander echoed through the speakers. All teams, prepare for Phase 1. Sonic pulse test in 5 minutes. Repeat 5 minutes to first strike. Ethan turned to Lyra. Are you ready? She nodded slowly. As ready as I can be. He gave her a small smile. Funny. I thought our biggest challenge would be explaining our marriage to our families. Lyra actually laughed. It was soft, but real. I still haven't told my mother. Same. There was a pause. Then Lyra said, You know, I'm glad it was you. Ethan looked at her. Glad what? That it was you who leaned in. You who started all this, by mistake or not. He smiled. I was just trying to kiss you, not save the solar system. Lyra stepped closer. You might have done both. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the coming storm didn't matter. The fear, the enemy, the uncertainty, it all faded. Then the alert rang out, firing sonic pulse. Now, high above, the aquatic species, the deep ones, released their first sonic wave. Blue light shot through Europa's crust and into space. The signal struck the dark shape beyond Jupiter. For a second, nothing happened. Then the object pulsed, not a normal pulse. A ripple of black energy spread out like waves in water. Systems across the station flickered. Some ships lost power for a few seconds. Communications went silent. Ethan shouted. What was that? Lyra stared at the screen. It absorbed the pulse, like it drank the energy. Can we stop it? She shook her head. Not like this. Suddenly, the object released a signal. Not a message, a feeling. Ethan clutched his head. Images flashed through his mind, empty worlds, data erased, machines walking through broken cities. Silence where voices once sang. The Voidkin didn't destroy with fire. They erased identity. They collected. Lyra gasped. They want to erase. Culture, history, emotion. Zoc spoke at last, his voice shaking. They are the opposite of witness. They want nothing left to remember. The council channels buzzed. Ships called in from across the system. Some wanted to flee. Others prepared to fire again. Ethan stepped forward. Wait, don't attack again. The commander frowned. Why not? The first shot failed. We must stop it. No, Ethan said. This enemy feeds on what we fear. Our disconnection. If we act alone, we lose. But we were chosen to unite. That's what the Deep Ones saw in us, Lyra added. The Void can expect resistance, not harmony, if we show them we are not divided. Maybe we confuse them. Maybe we weaken them. But how? The commander asked. Ethan looked at the screen. We show them everything they hate. We share stories, songs, emotions. We flood the system. With connection, Lyra nodded. Broadcast every culture, every voice. Make them feel us. Zoc raised both arms, a wave of unity, the ultimate vow, within the hour. The coalition launched Operation Echo. One by one, voices filled the system. A Martian child recited an old Earth poem. A Venusian choir sang in 12 harmonies. The Zaytari shared the story of Ethan and Lyra's accidental union. The Deep Ones sent pulse echoes filled with emotion, slow, beautiful sounds like whales singing under frozen oceans. Ethan and Lyra stood at the center of it all, transmitting their bond, their voice, their truth. They didn't know if it would work, but they knew it was the only way. The black object pulsed again, but this time it didn't absorb. It paused. The waves around it slowed. And then slowly it fractured. Cracks appeared in its surface. Tiny sparks of light escaped like trapped fireflies. The signals it had stolen began to return. Old memories, lost data, forgotten songs. What it had taken was being released. Ethan gasped. It's breaking apart. Lyra held his hand. We're winning. Suddenly, a loud voice, soft but clear, rang through every channel. We're alone. For too long. But you are not. We do not understand. We retreat, then. Just as quietly as it came, the Voidkin object faded. It folded into space like a vanishing shadow. Gone. Silence returned. But this time, it was peaceful. In the hours that followed, celebration spread across the moons and stations. People cheered. Cultures shared food, music, dance. Old rivalries were forgotten, at least for now. Ethan and Lyra sat on a bench inside Observation Dome 3, watching Jupiter glow in the sky. They didn't speak for a long time. Then Lyra said, "You leaned in. Once, and now the whole galaxy knows our story." Ethan chuckled. "Maybe I should have just waved that day. I'm glad you didn't." He turned to her. "So, what now?" "Back to normal." She looked at him. "I don't think anything will ever be normal again." He nodded. "Yeah, but I don't mind. Not with you." Zoc floated up behind them, holding a tiny gold medal. For bravery, unity, and marriage, they both laughed. As they leaned into each other, not because of prophecy or alien customs, but because they wanted to. Zoc smiled and whispered to himself, second vow complete. Europa Station had never felt so calm. After the retreat of the Voidkin, peace returned to the solar system. The moons of Jupiter, once divided by distance and politics, were now working together. Like never before, new cultural exchanges opened, trade grew. Diplomats visited Europa every week. But for Ethan Wells, life felt strange in a different way. He had gone from quiet xenoanthropologist to unexpected hero. People smiled at him in the hallways. Children asked for pictures. One alien even asked him for marriage advice. all because of one moment of simple, nervous leaning on a first date. Now, he was married to a woman who had become more than a research partner, more than a symbol. She had become his best friend. One bright morning, Ethan stood in the kitchen of their shared quarters. He made 2 cups of tea and placed one on the table. Lyra then entered, brushing her hair back, already reading a science report on her tablet. "Thanks," she said, taking the tea without looking up. Ethan smiled. "You're welcome, Dr. Venn." She looked up and raised an eyebrow. "Still calling me that? Should I start saying Mrs. Wells?" Lyra made a face. "Let's stick with Lyra." Zoc popped out of his small pillow box on the counter. He stretched his arms wide. "Good morning, legally bound pair." Ethan gave him a sleepy nod. "Good morning, ever-watching witness." Zoc beamed. "Today is a special day." Ethan blinked. "Did we forget something?" "Indeed," Zoc said. "Today marks 1 moon cycle since your marriage was witnessed." Lyra tilted her head. "It's only been 1 month, correct," Zoc replied. "And yet, it has changed the galaxy." Ethan shook his head. "Feels like a year." Zoc floated closer, holding up a tiny scroll. "As tradition demands, I request a vow renewal ceremony." Ethan laughed. "Seriously?" Lyra smirked. "Well, it's polite." Zoc spun with joy. "It will be simple. A few words, some music, and perhaps a symbolic gesture." Ethan looked at Lyra. "Want to renew our accidental vows?" She shrugged. "Sure. But this time, let's mean them." That afternoon, the ceremony was held in a small greenhouse dome overlooking Europa's icy plains. Just a few guests attended, some scientists, a couple of station crew members, and 2 curious aquatic ambassadors from the deep. Colorful lights floated above the trees. Music from 3 different species filled the air softly, blending into a peaceful harmony. Ethan wore a clean white shirt. Lyra wore a simple dark dress. Zoc hovered between them, holding a glowing light globe. "We gathered today," Zoc said. Proudly, not by chance, but by choice, Ethan and Lyra stood facing each other, this time with steady eyes and warm smiles. "I don't have fancy words," Ethan began, "but I have a real heart, and it tells me I'm glad we made this strange journey together." Lyra nodded. "I still don't believe in fate, but I believe in people. And I believe in you." Zoc sniffled happily and clapped his tiny hands. "Perfect. You may now give the symbolic gesture." Ethan leaned in slowly. This time, Lyra met him halfway. They kissed finally, fully without witnesses shouting or missions waiting. Just the 2 of them. Real, true, human. And this time, it felt right. Later, back in their quarters, Lyra and Ethan watched the stars from their window. The soft hum of the station's life systems made the space feel calm. "Do you think the galaxy will ever go back to being quiet?" Ethan asked. "Maybe," Lyra said. "But it won't be the same quiet." Ethan turned to her. "Do you miss being unknown?" "Not really," she said. "But I do miss having fewer meetings." They both laughed. A soft chime rang from their wall screen. It was a message from Earth. "Ambassador positions open for Solar Peace Network. Would the Wellsven pair be willing to serve?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "They want us to become ambassadors?" "Seems like it," Lyra said. "Because of our marriage and our work." Ethan stared at the screen. "You want to do it?" Lyra leaned against his shoulder. "Travel, diplomacy, adventure, together. Why not?" Zoc floated in suddenly, already carrying tiny travel maps. "In a glowing briefcase? I accept on your behalf." "Zoc," Lyra laughed. "We haven't said yes yet." "But you will," he said confidently. Ethan looked at Lyra, then nodded. "Yeah, we will." 2 weeks later, the couple stood inside a new ship, sleek, silver, and powered by fusion and goodwill. On the side, painted in 3 languages, was the name, the Unity Voyager, crew, Wellsven and Witness Zoka as the engines hummed to life. And stars stretched in front of them. Ethan took Lyra's hand. "You know," he said, "most couples take years to decide to travel the galaxy together. We're just efficient," she replied. Zoc spun through the air. Next stop, the Saturn Alliance. With love, laughter, and many potential vows, Ethan groaned playfully. "Zoc, please. No more surprise weddings. I promise nothing." The little alien said cheerfully as the ship left Europa's orbit. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side at the window. They didn't know where the future would take them. There would be more missions, more challenges, more unexpected twists, but whatever came, they would face it together, partners, not by accident anymore, but by choice. And as stars lit up the path ahead, one small ship carried a big truth through space. Sometimes, the smallest moment, a look, a laugh, a near kiss can change everything.